Good afternoon, lovelies. Welcome to Maverick Baking and welcome to another installment of Desserts of the World. Australia, a big country, like really big. Somehow home to deserts, rainforests and mountains all at the same time, and of course home to my and many other people's darling Heath Ledger. It's a nation arguably more than most shaped by people and cultures from every single part of this planet. And this can be seen especially so in its everyday cuisine. Influence from Southern European immigration can be seen in its fantastic coffee culture and in its thriving wine industry, while influence from East Asia can be seen in its adoration of kind of Chinese-style cuisine. The influence of Northern Europe can also be seen in a lot of its kind of older and more traditional dishes, and can especially be seen in today's installment of Desserts of the World. Let's talk Lamingtons. Thought to have been created about 100 years ago in the early 20th century, a Lamington is an iconic Australian treat. Made from fluffy cubes of cake, drenched in chocolate and then rolled in lovely desiccated coconut. The incredibly kind of unassuming and basic chocolate icing that coats these cakes is what gives them a really distinctive and beautiful texture, offering softness and fluffiness in every bite, but the coconut adding that lovely kind of welcome chew as well. While these little cubes of cake may not look like much on the, international stage, they even look a bit school bake fair, but personally I mean that as a compliment. They remain popular and utterly iconic as an Aussie treat. If you Google them today, you'll not only find hundreds or thousands of variations of the kind of classic recipe, you'll also find modern versions, including kind of pastel yellow versions filled with lemon flavouring, or versions that have been cut in half and sandwiched with raspberry jam and cream before being coated in chocolate. Their softness, their fluffiness, their kind of bite-sized measurements, and the fact that the recipe is incredibly simple make these understandably irresistible. They seem like something that, even though kids could make them, people of all ages can definitely enjoy. And on that basis, of course, I expected to like these Lamingtons, but not to the extent that I actually did in reality. The vanilla, the chocolate, and the coconut flavors work wonders together, while not being too sweet or overwhelming. And thanks to the kind of very light cake recipe and that lovely chocolate coating, every single bite is softer and moister, if you will, than you would expect. It's not a super fast recipe, nor is it a non-messy recipe, but it's one that is every bit as fun to make as it is to eat. I really hope you love these little treats as much as we have. Let's make some Lamingtons. Our tiny Aussie treats begin with a heaping helping of soft salted butter and of regular caster or granulated sugar. White sugar is best for this, just to get kind of optimum fluffiness and for that lovely pale colour we're looking for. You're going to want to add just a little bit of vanilla. As always, the best quality you can afford will offer the best flavour, but to be honest, if it's being baked, it's no big deal if you're using the cheap stuff. Now, I like to mix this just until it's a little bit paler and fluffier before adding eggs one by one to mix into a kind of more liquid mixture. Adding them in one by one like this just makes it a bit easier to get a smoother kind of cake batter at the end. Don't worry if it's looking a little bit split or separated at this point. This can happen when eggs and butter are together. They don't always like to behave well. But in adding the dry ingredients, being flour, and a little bit of baking powder and a little kind of secret touch of cornflour for extra softness and fluffiness, your mixture will become nice and smooth, I promise. We're also going to add a little bit of milk just to help achieve that glorious kind of fluffiness, making the sponge somewhere between a kind of American style cake mix and what I would call a more British sponge cake mix. Now you're going to want to grab just a regular roasting tin or kind of square or rectangular baking tin, butter it or oil it, and then put a little bit of greaseproof paper on the base just to make sure we can lift it out nicely without anything getting stuck, because trust me, nothing is worse. You're going to want to pour in your mixture and just kind of smooth it out evenly and pop it into a nice preheated oven until it is risen, golden and kind of springy to the touch. You're going to want to allow your cake to cool down completely at room temperature, and then we need to start getting our little cubes prepared. So I like to chop off the edges, not only because they make a fantastic snack, but just to make sure you have the most kind of even cube-shaped pieces you can get. You can do whatever you like with them. You can eat them then, or you can save them and coat them as little kind of leftovers later, and then just try and cut. Of course, you don't need to grab your ruler, but try and cut as kind of even little squares as you like, as big or small as you prefer. Then you're going to want to kind of space them out and pop them into either the fridge or even better into the freezer for just about an hour or so, just to help firm them up, before mixing together in a nice big bowl some icing sugar, some cocoa powder. Then you're going to want to kind of mix these up or to sieve them just to make sure there's no lumps, before adding some more salted butter for both flavour, texture and also for some shine, and then adding some hot milk or hot water. Stirring these together will help melt the butter, and adding the liquid very, very slowly will help you achieve a beautiful glossy icing instead of one that has, big ugly lumps of sugar or cocoa in there. You're also going to want to grab yourself a pretty big helping of desiccated coconut and just pop it out on a plate next to your cake cubes and to your chocolate, ready for a little kind of assembly line. Gently dunking your cakes into this lovely liquid icing, before then very delicately tossing in coconut. This is neither fast nor clean as a process for your hands, your worktops, everything, but I promise it is worth it in the end for these treats. So just continue going until you have all of your cubes nicely coated, before allowing them to set for about half an hour to an hour, and you will have some beautiful little Lamingtons to snack on. These make a fantastic afternoon treat. They make a lovely dessert. They are so soft and light and fluffy, and yet so sweet and satisfying at the same time. The cake is incredibly fluffy and stays beautifully moist thanks to that coating and the coconut on the outside. I hope you guys love these every bit as much as we have.